How are you though? We generally don't do that, do we?
I'm all
We go
right.
morning. We don't go how have you been?
That's true. I've
Yeah.
been all right. I haven't spoken to you either, so
No, I know.
been weird.
I know. I
Been all
messaged.
right.
I was like, are you all right?
Are you all right? I was
You
like, I think
okay?
so. Why? What's happened?
Has 7 days really gone?
I was like, why is this happening? My phone broken. Yeah, I'm all right.
Good. Great.
You
What
all right?
story have you got? I'm all right, yeah.
Yeah, you all right?
I'm all right.
Do you feel like any nobody else in the world with any other accent or anything says it quite the same as us? All
Says
right?
what? All right.
All right?
Yeah, because there's a lot of letters in there that we're missing out.
Yeah. Oh, right.
All right.
All right? You all right? I'm all right. You
You
all
don't
right?
realise what you're saying it until you get pulled up, do you?
No,
Ah, no, no.
no, mate. Morning.
Morning.
Yeah, it is
Yes,
morning, just.
it is morning.
It's a rainy morning here.
It's a rainy morning here, actually.
The weather's been lovely.
I know, but I wasn't ready to put trousers on my legs because I've
No,
not been wearing trousers for the last week because it's been too hot. And now that it's rainy and horrible, I wasn't ready for trousers, so I put 3/4 lengths on.
I
Wasn't
felt the
quite
same.
shorts weather.
I don't know what these trousers are. They're not really trousers,
They see through.
always. Bub, what are my trousers called?
Shorts.
Harem.
Oh my God, I love harem pants.
You have to do it
That's
like this, though. They're harem trousers.
I love harem pants. I've got a few and I live in them. In the summer I live in them because
They're
the
so
baggy
comfy.
crotch is just the best thing to like flap about.
Why would you not want flappy ears and baggy crutch?
Yeah.
So I don't feel like I've given in to trousers,
Yeah.
but
That I did
I didn't want to
pick
wear
up.
shorts.
Yeah, I did pick up my harem pants this morning actually and be like, do I want those? But then I would have had to
You
figure out
do.
what top I wanted to wear with them, and I didn't have the mental capacity for it to
I've
dress
got
myself this
I've got
morning.
an Alf top on today. I don't know if you can see. Alf.
A little, I can see a little bit.
Yeah, it's quite faded. It's like Sons of Anarchy, but it's Sons of Melmac.
I don't know what that is. Sorry, I'm not an
No, get
80s.
out.
Yeah, sorry.
You know who he is, though, right?
Yeah, I know who he is to recognize,
Dun,
but I've
dun,
never
dun.
watched
You've
never
never
watched
watched
it.
Alf?
No.
Oh.
Is it a series or a movie?
Both.
Both, right?
Mainly the
On it.
series. You have to watch it. He's my absolute favourite, obviously.
Yeah. What have you got for me today then? Because you didn't name the episode
I didn't.
for the meeting, so I don't know. It just says episode 29.
It
I have no
does.
idea
No, you
what it's
don't.
about. No.
No, you don't. Well, I would like to start this episode off with a warning. So I thought I'd get it in there early because parts of it I wanted to include as much detail as I could, but some of the detail when I was reading through, I thought, that's a bit gross. Um, the warning for this one is bits of the story are a bit graphic. And when I say graphic, it's descriptions of a corpse and not sexual violence, the act, but the aftermath, like things that could have happened to someone
Okay.
due to sexual violence.
Okay.
So, without further ado, this is the story of the Cecil Hotel and Elisa Lam.
Oh, good one.
So you do know the story. So
Mm.
you said, "Oh, I probably don't." I was like, "No, you definitely do,"
I
because
definitely do.
when I was recently in a hotel, you very kindly reminded me of this.
Yeah. When he was
after
drinking the tap water.
after I had a drink of water, and I was like,
Yeah.
"That tastes funny." And you were
Yeah.
like, "Well, don't forget." And I was like, "Okay, I'm off to the garage to get some bottled water." So I keep wanting to call it the Cecil Hotel.
Okay.
So I know in our English accent it's pronounced Cecil.
Yeah.
I probably will refer to it as the Cecil Hotel. I don't know why.
Absolutely fine.
Don't know why. Just do.
You just like to be different, don't you?
I do. The Cecil Hotel is located in downtown LA, and it first opened its doors on the 20th of December in 1924. It has 14 floors with no 13th floor. So a lot of
Oh,
hotels do
okay.
that, don't they? They miss out floor
Yeah.
13 because no one wants
They
to
do
stay there.
in like theaters and cinemas and things like that.
Yeah, there's
There's
no
no
13.
13. And there's
Hmm.
no row 13, I think, in flights as well.
Oh, yeah. That's a good idea.
Just no one's going to book those seats, are they? Let's
That's
be
true.
real.
I never thought about that. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. So it has 14 floors and it's got over 700 rooms. The Cecil cost $1.5 million to complete, and
In
it was
1924.
in 1924.
Yeah.
That's a lot, isn't it? I mean, it's
Mm.
a lot now,
By
but
today's standards, yeah,
yeah.
that would be.
Wonder how much hotels cost to put together now. That must be
Well,
like, I don't know,
from my
40, 50
experience of
million.
buying hotels, you have to buy the 4 houses first.
That's true. That's
To
true.
change them into a hotel, and they're normally about 200 each before you can
Such a prick.
before you can upgrade to your hotel.
I was thinking, what's she talking about? 4 houses. And then I was like, oh,
And they give
I
him a
know what you're
boy.
talking about. Um, so $1.5 million to complete, and it obviously was a beautiful, opulent building, and it was considered a very desirable place to stay. Not for long.
Not for long,
Not for
indeed.
long. The hotel flourished during the 1940s, but sadly, in the years to come, the whole area began to decline, and they saw a huge increase in transient people. And eventually it became known as Skid Row.
And does it say why that happened? Because it was quite a prominent up and coming area, wasn't it? And then do you think it was because after the war, people lost
Possibly,
their
yeah.
houses and whatever
I
else, and
feel
it
like
just.
I feel like I did know that when I was doing the research, but I can't remember why. Maybe I wondered the same as you, but couldn't
Yeah,
find a
because it
reason.
was
But
quite an up and coming area, and then all of a sudden, Skid Row.
yeah, I think maybe it just attracted a lot of people because in my experience, this is just my opinion, I'm not slating the whole area, but I remember the first time I went to Hollywood and I was absolutely blown away by how many homeless people I saw and how many shops were closed down and boarded up, and it just
Oh,
looked,
really?
yeah, and I just remember my first experience. I was only, I think, like 19 at the time, but I just remember walking into Hollywood and, I'm here, um, and finding it just very sort of dirty. And yeah, there, like I said, there was a lot of homeless people. There was a lot of shops that were all closed down, boarded up, a lot of rubbish everywhere. And I thought, I was really, really surprised. I was really, really surprised at that because I had in my head, Hollywood, movie stars, that's where
Hmm.
all the movies come from. Um,
That's
rich
where all
and
the rich and
famous.
famous. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously there are, I just see a fly shoot
Oh,
past.
that's fucking
Um,
dickhead.
there are a lot of parts of Hollywood that are like that. Um, And
but I guess it's going to be the same as if the hotel is up and coming and it's doing really well and flourishing, and it's going to attract a lot of high profile people or people with
exactly.
wealth. So then also along with that, you get prostitutes, sex workers that
Uh-huh.
think they're going to get more business, and then you get the homeless that move
Yeah,
in
and they
because they
probably
think they're going to
do.
get. So
Yeah.
yeah, okay,
But
that
yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah, so maybe it was because, because there was a lot of people that did have a lot of money, or, were maybe thought a lot of themselves, that, transient people thought head in there. And drugs was a big part of the downfall, I think, of downtown LA. That, it became a lot more violent. There was a lot more drug use everywhere. It was easy to go out and, score drugs and things like that. So, but in 1931, a guest called W.K. Norton died in his room after consuming poison capsules, and it was listed as a suicide. But I do wonder, poison capsules, there was a lot of drugs in that area. Was it an intentional suicide? I don't really know anything about it yet. Maybe I'll look into it more. But anyway, a lot more suicides followed in the 1940s and 50s, and the Cecil Hotel seemed to be the
The place
place
to
to
do
go.
it.
Yeah, the place to go and do it. There was a woman who had an argument because it was a residential hotel. So there was a lot of people that were residents there, and they used to just pay a monthly rate, and that's where they resided. But there was a woman there that had an argument with her husband or boyfriend, I'm not sure. And she threw herself out of the window. And she actually landed on someone and killed them as well.
Oh gosh.
I know, hideous.
Oh, how's your luck?
I know. In 1964, a retired telephone operator who was called Pigeon Goldie,
Great name.
and that's only because she fed the pigeons, but she was, her name was Osgood, but she was well known and she was a well liked resident. But unfortunately, she was found dead in her room, and her room had been absolutely trashed. And sadly, Goldie had been beaten, raped, and stabbed. It was a brutal murder. The police made an initial arrest, and the suspect was released, and the murder remains unsolved to this day. So maybe that's something else we could look into. This is creepy. In the 1980s, the serial killer Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker,
Night Stalker.
he stayed there.
Yeah.
That's crazy, isn't it? That
Yeah.
freaked me out, that did. But he actually lived for quite a while at the hotel.
Yeah.
And
That just goes to show the type of people that
exactly,
did stay there.
exactly. This is where it's said to have been the place for serial killers. This is where serial killers, murderers, rapists, they called this place home. They considered
Yeah.
this place like, get in, kick off your shoes at the end of a night of murdering and raping and torturing. And that's the place they would go back to and kick off their shoes, lay on the bed and go, oh, another successful night stalking.
Yeah. Can you imagine working there and like somebody goes, "Oh, I want to check in for the week," and she's like, "Oh, what do you think? He's murderer, rapist? Who do we think?"
That's Ted Bundy. Imagine working and knowing that you'd seen and served Richard Ramirez.
Yeah, and then even being like, "Oh, he was lovely to me.
He was so
He was
nice.
such a nice guy." But that is normally the way, isn't it? And you think, "Oh, what a nice guy."
I bet he wasn't.
He didn't look like a good, nice guy, did he?
No.
Richard Ramirez.
He looked like a horrible, nasty fuck.
He did.
I was going to say something else then, and I didn't. Are you proud of me?
Yeah, well done. We talked about restraint, didn't we? With our words.
We did. I'm restraining myself. Richard he used to come in and he used to walk up the stairs to his room, and he would be removing blood-stained clothes.
Oh God.
As he was going, And he would, by the time he got to his room, he'd be in just his knickers, and they would have all like blood all over and everything. And he'd just like walk into his room having taken off all these blood drenched clothes.
That's so shocking.
How can that happen?
I know. Is it like because they were
mean?
doing so poorly, they would just accept anyone and be like, "Oh, listen, he pays every week, so just don't worry," you know.
I don't know. I mean, this is in the 80s. Oh,
That
this
was
is
fly
in
again.
bastard. So I don't know. Were people as vigilant about it? Did they care about it? You get a lot of transient people going in there. Had a lot of drug takers going in there. So would you notice that these people's clothes were covered in blood, or would you
Yeah,
just
I think
think that they'd
everybody's
had a
so
fight or something? And
yeah, that's what I was going to say. I think everyone's so busy with their own life that if you did see someone walk in and they're covered in blood, you wouldn't automatically think he's a murderer.
yeah, I mean, I would now.
You have to, anybody that listens to these podcasts will.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a whole load of us now that I think would be like, that's suspicious.
Well, it's like when you walk down the road and you think, oh, is there a body in that like bushes?
I
And you
always think that.
always look out for bodies.
Always. Yeah, I'm always thinking that, especially when I go for like dog walks and things like that. I always like look in the bushes and I think, oh, am I going to be like one of those people that says, Kate was walking her dog and she found what looked like a mannequin.
Well, I
You know what I
went for a
mean?
walk the other day and I didn't know where I was going and I had my earphones on and I was searching. I was in my map and this old, really old man, he had these two little dogs and he was like, "Oh, do you need any help?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't really know. I'm just trying to look about which way is the best to go." I was trying to follow like one of those walking sat nav things. And then he was like, "Oh, if you go this way through here, blah, blah, blah. And if you go that way, blah, blah, blah." And he was telling me all these different walks and he was like, "Oh, I'll come with you if that's okay." And I was like,
Mace him. Mace him.
no, but I was so nice. I was like, "Oh, okay, that's fine."
What
And
are
I
you
walked with
thinking?
him. I walked with him and his two little dogs. Well, like what I was thinking is that, you know, if he tries anything, I know that I could take him. So that's where my mind went. But then I walked with this man and his two dogs for I don't know how long. We walked for ages together in this like a foresty type bit.
Nice.
Yeah, I know. And I was like, he's just picked up a stick. What's he picked up a stick for? But it was just for his little dogs.
Well, I mean, let that be the last time you do something like that.
I
I mean,
know.
it's nice to be nice, but walking with a random man
Yeah, I
with two
know.
dogs in the woods,
But it's Norfolk. Everybody's nice up here.
I'll get you some mace.
Thank you. I'd be too polite to use that, but I'm so sorry about this.
I'm so sorry about this,
Listen.
but I'm just going to have.
Oh my
I'll
God, I got
spray
you in the eye. I'm so
I won't,
sorry.
I won't spray it right in your face. I'll just spray it near you. Like, in fact, I'll spray myself. Make it fair. Stop that. Get some more of the violence about you, just in case, because it will keep you safe.
Oh, I don't have a violent bone in my body.
Now, I've got everyone's violent bones.
You do, yeah.
I would honestly, if you did something like that, especially after doing this podcast, and something happened to you, I would
I
be
went and got
so
myself
full
murdered.
of rage. Yeah.
I know.
I'd
But
be like,
I'd come back
whoever
and
done it, you better run. Because I'm so
I'd come back
furious.
and be like, "I'm so sorry, Kate. Sorry
No.
for getting myself murdered."
I'd have to go to a medium and I'd be like, right, you don't tell me anything that she's saying. You tell her. I said no. She'd be like, I've got a message from Sarah. I'd be like, no. You take my message.
I'm not here to receive today.
I'm here to have my say. Tell her I told you so. Yeah, the rule of let them doesn't apply to you. Don't be stupid.
Yeah.
Right, where were we? Talking about the Cecil Hotel.
Ramirez took all his clothes off.
That's it. He got naked down to his knickers. They were bloody and rank. So was he. So yeah, so that's a few things about people that stayed there and died there. Unbelievably, one of the staff said in the documentary that's on Netflix about the Cecil Hotel and Elisa Lam in particular, but she said she worked there for about 10 years. And this absolutely blew my mind. She worked there for about 10 years and there were over 80 deaths.
Uh-huh.
That's mad.
That's yeah. You know, that
That's
place should have been
ridiculous.
closed down, really.
I know.
Yeah.
In just 10 years. And a lot of the ones that I spoke about are not included in that 10 years.
Yeah.
You think that's ridiculous. Like so many deaths, so
Well,
many
that's
suicides,
eight.
murders.
Yeah, 8 a year,
Yeah,
which is how many eights in 56? Six? No.
56.
Yeah. Is there eights in 56?
Why
I
56?
don't know. How many weeks of the year? There's 52, isn't there? Dickhead.
I'm not editing that out. I was thinking 56. What?
No, 52. How many eights in 52?
56 is my unlucky number. I stay away from 56 always.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I was going to try and do the math that how many it would be
Well, I
per
mean,
every few weeks.
yeah, I mean that I don't know, probably every 5 or 6 weeks,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah, it's going to be
horrible,
like
isn't
six
it?
and a half weeks or something. Yeah, that's a
You'd
lot.
just be like, you'd just literally just be taking a breath, and then someone would come down and go, "It's happened again." Or you'd like
Yeah.
just like start your shift and go to walk in, and someone would go flying past you, and you'd be like, "It's going to be a long shift."
Yeah, that's it. 6 weeks goes incredibly fast, doesn't it?
Yeah,
So
it does. It really
that's
does. 6 weeks
that's
holidays when the kids are off.
yeah, that's
Super fast.
a lot of deaths to
It
have in
is.
your life.
Yeah. And then like some are suicides, some were obvious murders, like Goldie's. Brutal rape and murder. And you think, and it's still unsolved.
Yeah, I think, I mean, give her props for working there for 10 years. You'd question, your safety as an employee.
100%. Yeah, definitely.
I'm not going in to change his sheets. Have you seen how much blood's on them? I'm not going in there. You go
No,
in there.
can you imagine if you went in though? You every time you went into a room to like clean it, you'd just be thinking, oh, please don't. Or if like someone hadn't checked out yet and you were thinking, we're going to have to go up and check their room.
Draw straws.
I don't know. I'm so intrigued by death.
But do we
I
think
think
it's
I would
because
volunteer to go in there and check.
you did actually say to me that this episode brings about a lot of like debate and controversy?
It
And do we
does.
think that there's a lot of death there because there's a lot of death there? So
I
like
know. I
negative
thought the same
energy
thing.
draws negative energy.
Yeah. Or like it happens there so much. If you're going to commit suicide or you're going to commit a murder because it's so common there, they're probably not going to look into it as in depth as if I did it in Central Park in New York.
Yeah.
I don't know, but
What's the reason that happens so frequently there? But it's
yeah,
because
everyone
this,
thinks that there's this like real bad energy.
yeah,
You know, what's his name? Richard Ramirez was, he worshipped Satan. When he got sent down, he's got that pentagram on his hand, doesn't he? And he sort of says, "Hail Satan!" If you're going to commit suicide, that's the place to do it.
yeah. Let's discuss it at the
It's a
end
lot.
because
It's a
I'm
lot
sure
of deaths, though.
there's more that happens there, isn't there? So we'll gather all the
Oh
information
yes.
and we'll have a little discussion.
Okay. So, in 2013, the hotel was actually rebranded to Stay on Main. That's what it was called. And this was purely in an effort to shake off the seedy image that the Cecil Hotel had. But what they did was because they wanted to rebrand the whole hotel, but they couldn't because it was listed as a residential hotel. So they couldn't just evict the residents that were there. So what they did was they kind of split some of the floors. So there was like, I think 3 floors that were Stay on Main. And the downstairs, the ground floor, they split into 2 parts. So they actually had 2 lobbies. So it looked like 2 separate hotels. They had the Stay on Main there, and then they had the entrance to the Cecil. And they both had a lobby and a reception and a check-in desk and all that. But people that went to the Stay on Main It was like new and trendy, and this is 2013, so they had, you know, some cool technology bits, and it was seen as a bit of a cool, trendy place to go. And people seem to be like loving it, you know. But they also say in the documentary where they're talking about this sort of rebrand, they said the only part where they couldn't keep parties separate from the sort of, I don't know, less desirables that were frequenting the Cecil was the elevators. They still only had 2 lifts.
Yeah.
So at some point you crossed paths with, you know, the undesirables. The stay on Main, they'd all been given, like, it was painted like accents of bright orange. The staff had like bright orange polo shirts. It was quite white and clean, and you know,
Modern,
yeah,
fresh.
modern, and they were getting some really good reviews. But obviously when you got past that and you went to like other parts of the hotel, they were like, ugh. Like, you know, everything's dirty and rank.
The water
But
tastes funny.
water's less desirable. So Elisa Lam, she was 21 years old at the time. When she saw the stay on Main and saw how cool and trendy it looked, that's what attracted her to it. But ultimately, she was still in the Cecil Hotel. So, I mean,
Oh,
she
that's
didn't
why
know.
I get worried about booking things like abroad when you look at the hotels
Yeah,
and you think, oh, that looks really great, but actually it's not, is
actually,
it?
no. So Elisa Lam was born on the 30th of April, 1991. That sounds so young, 91.
Well,
You
I'm
you,
90s.
you were 90s.
Yeah, I'm 90.
Yeah, I'm not far off. Just just before that, a little bit. And she was the daughter of Hong Kong immigrants, David and Yina Lam. Elisa and her sister were born in Vancouver in British Columbia, and Elisa was a student at the university in British Columbia. So Elisa was a very keen blogger, and she started doing a blog on a blog spot called Etherfields in about the middle of 2010. And then later she found Tumblr. I have no knowledge of Tumblr other than this. It's not something that I know about, but I get the impression that it's a bit like a cross between Facebook and MySpace, or like people used to post pictures that they like and put little blogs and things like that. But she went under the name Nouvelle Nouveau, and her subjects were mostly like fashion, daily thoughts. And she also included a lot of posts about her mental health that she felt she sometimes struggled with. And again, this is part of the controversy of this whole case, was that she did actually have poor mental health. In January 2012, her post read that she dropped several of her classes due to a relapse and was feeling utterly, and this is quote, utterly directionless and lost. She decided she needed to see some of the world and fill her life with new experiences, starting, unfortunately, and ending by traveling around California on her own.
That's a bold move.
Elisa's parents were not happy about her traveling alone, obviously, because they knew. She was diagnosed with bipolar, and she had depression, and she had a variety of different like medicines and tablets and things to control her depression and bipolar. Unfortunately, she had a history of not taking her meds like she should. And she had previously had hallucinations, and some that had caused her to hide under the bed. And she actually spent time in hospital for this this same thing. She didn't have any history of attempted suicide, so that was a bit of a You know, everyone said, oh, yeah, but she had a history of depression and thoughts of suicide. She didn't,
She didn't.
that we know of anyway. But nonetheless, Elisa, she was 21. She insisted that she would contact her parents every day, let them know she was safe. And that was good enough. Off she went. And she was traveling on intercity buses and Amtrak and things like that. She visited San Diego Zoo, which is an awesome zoo, and posted photos of herself while she was at the zoo. And on the 26th of January, she arrived in LA. 2 days later, she checked into the Cecil Hotel. Upon her arrival, she was assigned a dorm room that had a couple of other girls in it. And this was on the 5th floor.
So was this as part of the main?
I think she booked with Stay on Main.
Mm-hmm.
But I think by the sounds of it, once you kind of got past
The foyer.
the foyer, it kind of all blended into someone. You had the same elevators. I think the floors were, because there was the ground floor, 1, 2. So I think floors 3, 4, and 5 were Stay on Main. So, and she was, and they kind of did the rooms up a little bit nicer, cleaned it all a bit nicer, gave the walls a lick of paint, put new bedding in. They had like bunk beds in the dorm rooms. So it's kind of like that, but
It's
so
still the Cecil Hotel.
yeah, exactly. But and also what changed it was that the girls that were in her room then started making complaints about Elisa and said that she was leaving like notes on their beds saying go away
Oh.
and leave and things like that. And it was like, that's weird. And then like they would go out and they would come back to the dorm room and Elisa wouldn't let them in unless they told her the password. And they were like, just let us in.
I have a key card.
Let us in our fucking room, man. Yeah, so the girls then went down to the lobby and said, look, this is ridiculous. She's leaving us these notes. She's making us use passwords that we don't know. So they said, all right, well, we'll move her to a room like on her own. So they actually ended up moving her 2 floors up. So she was then in the Cecil bar on the 7th floor. So Elisa had also, while she was there, she'd attended a live recording of the Conan O'Brien show. And she was also removed by security from that because of disruptive behaviour. Her behaviour's not looking like...
Her behaviour is matching up to what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
see where you're going with that.
It's not looking too great on a sort of mentally level plane. But on the 31st of January, Elisa was scheduled to check out of the Cecil and head to Santa Cruz. Katie.
So how long had she been staying there?
So she checked in. So 26th of January, she arrived.
Oh, so she'd
in
only
LA.
been there for a few days.
Yeah. So yeah. So
a week.
Literally, like, yeah, a couple of days she'd been there by then. Because I don't think she even checked into the Cecil Hotel when she arrived on the 26th.
Yeah.
So I think she was just booked to stay there for a couple of days. So Katie Orphan, who was the manager of the last bookstore, remembered seeing Elisa that day on the 31st of January. And she said she was very bubbly, she was excited, she was choosing presents to take home for her family. But she was kind of, the choice with the books that she was buying was very much on how big they were, how heavy they were. Is she going to be able to easily put that in her suitcase, that kind of thing?
Is it going to make it overweight?
Yeah.
That's a big thing.
Always. She said that she seemed in good spirits. She seemed with it. You know, she didn't seem like she was talking to people that weren't there or anything like that. The staff at the Cecil said that they saw her on the 31st and she was alone. She wasn't with anyone. She wasn't talking to anyone. They also discovered that Elisa did not check out.
Sorry, I'm not sure about that.
I am. I'm telling it. I know what I'm saying. Shush. Not sure about that.
She's piping up, going, I don't think that's right.
I think she did check out. Shut up, Alexa. I said Elisa, not Alexa.
Idiot.
Idiots. So what was also discovered was that Elisa did not check out. Elisa did not ring her parents that day, and Elisa was never seen alive again. So as soon as David and Yena didn't hear from her, as soon as they thought, nope, Elisa hasn't called, they were on it. They got straight onto the LAPD and reported her missing. They were like, nope, she would have phoned us. She hasn't. Go find her. In the following week, the police put up missing persons flyers. They posted images of Elisa online, and they searched the hotel as thoroughly as they could, bearing in mind that they couldn't search the individual rooms that were occupied without probable cause. Probable.
Are you saying it right?
I know, but
You can
I'm
do
tripping
it.
up. All right. Bearing now I can't say that. Bearing in mind they can't sort. Oh, I can't search. Bearing in mind they can't search rooms that are occupied without probable. I can't say that word.
Just try again.
I can't say some
believe in you.
Werpishers either.
I said that to Josie the other day. Werpishers.
Werpishers.
Do
Some
you want me to say the line?
I said it. Yes, please.
Yeah. So bearing in mind they can't search individual rooms without probable cause. That might be why people decided to commit murders there, because they would remain, you know, unsolved for at least a little while because they couldn't find the body.
Yeah, or say the words.
Oh, yeah. They couldn't get a warrant because they couldn't ask for it. There's no probable cause.
And there's no probable. Yeah, that. So search dogs were also used in all areas that they could access, including the roof. Remind me to come back to the bit about the dogs on the roof.
Question it.
Roof dogs.
Roof dogs. Got it.
Now the case had attracted a lot of attention from the media, and on 13th of February, the police released a 2.5 minute video of Elisa in the elevator.
And that was a very controversial video.
Oh my goodness. And it still is. There's so much about the video online. And
are you going to go through what happens in the video?
Kind of.
Okay. I was going to say, for anybody that don't know the video, after you've listened to the episode, go and watch the video because it's very, very peculiar.
Yeah. So in this video, Elisa is in one of the elevators or lifts for us in the UK. And this video is 100% from CCTV in the corner of the elevator. So in the video, Elisa is seen behaving really strange. She steps in and out of the elevator. She looks like she's hiding from someone. She leans down. She presses multiple buttons on the panel, and she steps outside and she kind of walks out, and then she turns around and you can see her gesturing, but she's making all these funny hand movements with her hands. It looks like she's gesturing to someone. It looks like she's talking to someone just out of view of the camera. Yeah. And at one point she steps into the elevator and she kind of stuffs herself in the corner, like she's hiding from someone, like she doesn't want to be seen by someone walking past the elevator. And then she kind of steps out and she leans out of the elevator and looks both ways really quickly and then steps back in. It is really odd behavior.
Yeah.
What we need to come to a conclusion about is why. Was she hiding from someone? Was she on drugs? Was she suffering from lack of medication. It was making her hallucinate. Anyway, we'll get to that. So at some point in the video, well, at the end of the video, she steps out of the elevator and she disappears, and that's it. She's not seen again.
Yeah,
ever.
that's the last footage of her, isn't
Yeah,
it? That,
yeah.
But the elevator doesn't go anywhere. The whole time she's going in and out and doing whatever she's doing, it doesn't actually take her anywhere, does
No,
it?
well, that was one of my questions when I was doing the research. I was like, why would the door stay open? And at one point,
That was one of the
video,
questions.
you can see the door kind of move like it's going to close, and it goes back.
Yep.
So some people say that there was someone outside the elevator, and they kept pressing the button to
Yep.
hold the door open. Keep
There's
her
a
there.
lot of discussions about the supernatural as well, wasn't there?
There is. There's also, before we get to the supernatural bit, I also found out that on the elevator panel, there is actually a door hold button. And some people said that when they've analysed the video and they've zoomed in and they've really looked carefully, that you can see her push that button.
Okay.
However, that only holds the door open for 2 minutes.
Well, she was in there for 2.5 minutes, wasn't she?
Well, again, we don't know, because the timestamp at the bottom has been distorted. It's been thought to have been tampered with. You can't read the numbers. You can't see. Some people have apparently decoded it and said
There's a chunk missing.
you can see, yeah, but there's a chunk missing. It's like 50 seconds. Why?
But that's the thing, isn't it? Maybe because the hotel had such a bad name for murders, and that's why they rebranded. So now that they actually want to cover up something, because they don't want that name again. So, you know, if they have seen something that could link to a murder, they want to try and cover it up because they don't want that sort of press for the hotel again.
Well, police forensics say that there's absolutely no way that the hotel could have tampered with it. So if it was altered, then it wasn't by the hotel. They also said there's every chance that they could have put like like a sort of a screen disguiser, something over the timestamp, because they said when videos are released to the general public, the police don't always want the general public to know the exact moment that this person was last seen. Or
okay.
So it could have been, they said, we're not saying it was, but that could be a reason why it looks distorted, because it could have been done intentionally so that the public didn't have this exact pinpoint information. Who knows? But who knows why there was potentially 50 seconds missing. And also that takes a whole minute out of the elevator door hold being open.
Yeah. Very odd.
But this is where all these theories started coming in. Was it something paranormal? Was she hiding from someone that was out of view? Was she taken at gunpoint? Was she having a psychotic episode? Because she was bipolar and she did hallucinate.
And she didn't take her meds.
Yeah, and she didn't. Well, she had a history of not taking her meds. But again, I'll get to that. But before we come away from the elevator, you were saying about the paranormal thing. There was something that was called the elevator game, wasn't there? Where it was said that if you put the numbers in a certain sequence, it was supposed to take you to the 13th floor that didn't exist. And then weird shit went down. So there was a lot of that as well. A lot of people think that the video had been tampered with, and the timestamp in the corner being unclear, because they said that she could have been messed with and murdered potentially by someone that worked at the Cecil Hotel. So they
maybe the lady that worked there for 10 years and had 80 murders.
It wasn't you. I mean, surely if you were going to do that, I mean, I was a manager of restaurants for, well, a long time, about 10 years actually, funnily enough. So I had the access to all the CCTV cameras and things like that. If I'd done something, I'd just destroy the whole thing. I wouldn't mess around with tampering with.
What the police said, isn't it, is that these hotel workers, they don't know how to tamper with the CCTV. So you've either got the option of destroying it or giving it over. They don't have the knowledge or the equipment to actually tamper with it.
I don't know as though I would be able to either.
Yeah, I think that was
think-
one of the things that they said.
Yeah, I mean, I just think if I was going to do that, I wouldn't just remove like 50 seconds of it.
Yeah,
and
you'd be like, oh, that camera wasn't working that day.
Exactly. You'd just be like, well, I don't know what happened to it.
Taped over the footage. Sorry.
Yeah, it's gone.
Mm-hmm.
But you wouldn't. Why would you go to all the trouble of just taking out 50 seconds of it
and leaving the rest?
Because it showed you, but leaving all the rest of her like looking like she's looking for someone, hiding from someone, talking. You'd just remove all of it, and you'd just be like, I don't know. Maybe they thought if they only removed 50 seconds, it would be less obvious. Maybe they thought no one had noticed. I don't know. A couple that were staying at the Cecil at the same time as this was all going on was Sabrina and Mike Bow, or Bow. I think Bow. Baugh. Sorry to Sabrina and Mike if I've got your name wrong. Bow, I think it is.
Mm-hmm.
And they're from the UK. Way down in Plymouth. And they'd always wanted to go to America, and after they saw a cheap package deal, they booked to go over the pond. Upon arrival, they saw posters for missing Canadian tourist Elisa Lam as they walked, ironically, to the Cecil Hotel. And the couple were also disappointed to see, after the glamorous, lovely, trendy reception hall, that the hotel rooms were dusty and dirty and rank. And I mean, they weren't bloody, but well, probably some of them were. But they decided that they got a good deal. Maybe you get what you pay for a little bit. And they were like, we're going to go out sightseeing anyway, so it doesn't matter. However, 5 days in, things got so much worse. They were struggling to sleep. There were parties going on in the rooms around them, and they could smell weed through, like, coming through the air vents in the bathroom and that. And they were like, this is not what we wanted. And this is where it gets gross. Sabrina said that while they were brushing their teeth, the water tasted funny. And she said, we were showering in it, we were drinking it, because they didn't want to leave their room to get more bottled water. A bit like me in my hotel. I thought, I can't bother to go out again. But theirs was slightly different. Mine was because I was fat and lazy. Theirs was because they were surrounded by druggies and serial killers. So they were like, I don't want to go out. Yeah, so they were like, nah, we'll just, if we want to drink, we'll just drink it out there. But they said it really tasted horrible. Well, they complained, and they were moved to another room 2 floors up. So Mike noted that because the couple were from the UK, they weren't used to the LA heat. And on several evenings, they ran out of bottled water. He didn't want to leave, so they kind of drank quite a bit of water from the tap. They noticed that even after they were moved, that the water started going like a yellowy brown colour, and more guests makes me feel rough. Yeah. More and more guests complained to hotel management, and the maintenance man, poor old maintenance man, was sent to investigate the cause. So he decided first thing he'd do, check the water tanks that were on the roof. On the morning of the 19th of February, hotel maintenance worker Santiago Lopez found the naked body of Elisa floating in one of the 1,000-gallon water tanks on the roof of the Cecil Hotel. Elisa was moderately decomposed and bloated. Her skin was greenish white and she was floating face up with her clothes beside her in the tank. There was discussions, as there is in every single part of this case, but there was discussions, I remember, about people saying, why was she naked? Why did she have her clothes off? Could be hypothermia. So when you get hypothermia, you start to feel incredibly hot, don't you? So you then strip. It could have been, I heard someone saying about maybe when she realized that she couldn't get out, maybe she tried to like throw her clothes up and over so that she could pull herself out.
But they weren't like tied in any way, was they? You know, if you thought you was going to try and use them, you'd tie them together. They weren't.
It could have been for, you know, to try and sort of increase her buoyancy. I remember when I did my lifesavers swimming badge when I was little, we had to jump in our pajamas. Did you do that?
I didn't do that, but I'm sure Josie mentioned it. Yeah.
And then you had to take your pajamas off
and use it and inflate it.
Yeah, inflate it, hook it through the air and then tie it and use it as a float. I mean, I never saw the point of that. I mean, the side of the pool's right there, just get out.
Absolutely.
No brainer. Yeah, so her clothes were in there. The tank was drained and cut open at the side to allow Elisa's body to be removed. And meanwhile, all the guests were being held downstairs in the lobby. Mike and Sabrina had no idea what was going on until a reporter told them that a maintenance worker has just found the body of Elisa Lam in the water tank on the roof.
Ugh.
Sabrina just stared at them and went, what? And she said the realization hit her.
God.
The discoloration and the taste of the water that she's been drinking.
I don't think that's you're ever going to get over that.
The next line in my notes is, how can you ever get over that?
I just don't think that you could. Every time you took a drink, you'd be like, oh, remember that time? Oh, God.
You would forever have to live off of bottled water, wouldn't you? And even then, maybe it'd put you off drinking water. Maybe you'd have to. I think
it would.
I mean, you know, keep yourself safe, people. Drink beer. Drink wine. It's safer.
When I was having chemo, because I was so poorly and it gives you, it makes your mouth sore and it makes everything taste horrible. So to keep myself hydrated, I drank coconut water.
Oh yeah, I love that. Has that put you off it though?
Yes. I did love coconut water. I can't, I feel like I'm so triggered now by the same as the ginger. I'm so triggered by the ginger now because it reminds me of that time.
Yeah.
So I think that water would absolutely do the same.
Yeah. No, definitely. You'd just never be able to confidently and comfortably hold a glass under the tap and let that bad boy run.
No.
You'd just be like, oh, I can't do it.
No.
Where? The coroner's report took months to be released, and everyone thought that was really suspicious as well. The police didn't release their report for ages, and neither did the coroner. So everyone was like super suspicious of like, why won't you just give us, like, we've all been looking for her. Now you've found her in really weird circumstances. Why won't you just tell us what the investigation is? Like, do we need to be worried? Is there another serial killer in the Cecil Hotel? Like, what's happening? When the coroner's report was released, there was a small mistake on there where they'd checked the wrong box. So they'd put, you know, like unconcluded cause of death or something like that. And they thought, oops, wrong box. Crossed that out, initialed it, dated it, and then put suicide, signed it, dated it. So a lot of people like undetermined. Thanks, Sarah.
You're welcome.
So a lot of people got suspicious about that as well and thought, oh, you know, the 18, because they did it on the 18th. One of them, the bit that kind of goes across of the 8 is quite faint, so it looked like a 15 instead of 18. So then everyone was like, they've changed it because on the 15th they said suicide, and then on the 18th they said undetermined. And it's like, no, it wasn't. It was a mistake that was made. They initialed it. They dated it. If you look closely, it clearly says the 18th on both
Right.
dates. But yeah, so there was a lot of hoo-ha about that.
Controversy.
The coroner said in his report there was no evidence of physical trauma of any kind. There was no evidence of sexual assault, however. We'll come back to that. Toxicology showed no recreational drugs whatsoever, and only a small amount of her prescription drug, showing that she was under medicating or had stopped taking her meds recently. However, there's also an argument with that to say being in the water could have dampened down the amount of drugs.
Diluted it almost.
Yeah, like diluted the amount of drugs that was in her system. Smaller amounts of Sinutab and ibuprofen were also found. The alcohol reading was minimal at 0.02 grams.
I think even if you have something like grapes or something, doesn't that change your alcohol?
Does if they're crushed and fermented.
And in a lovely glass out of a bottle.
See, that's why I don't have like, oh, I'll just have a couple of drinks. That's why I don't. Because one drink can affect me because I feel it. I have a glass of wine and I think, oh,
Yeah.
a little bit tipsy.
Woohoo!
I'm
Yeah.
going to throw caution to the wind. Yeah, you never know. So, and it depends like how much you've had to drink and eat and everything. So,
Yeah.
anywho, the clothes that she'd been seen wearing in the elevator video were also found in the tank with her watch and her room key were all in there. But strangely enough, her mobile phone has never been found.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What about her shoes? Were her shoes in there with her or they were outside the tank?
Well, you can say, or were they out? I was like, I don't know. I think they went out. They met another pair of shoes and
Hello, time.
I don't know, actually. I didn't.
I think I remember hearing that the shoes were outside.
No,
But
yeah,
then if they would have been
actually,
found when the police searched, wouldn't they?
roof dogs.
Roof dogs.
Yeah. So this is what I don't understand. If the police say they went up and they thoroughly searched the roof with roof dogs, why didn't the dogs pick up on a scent?
I think her scent would have been well washed away. She's in water.
Yeah, but she went there. They would have. I mean,
Yes.
she didn't float.
It was a long time before, though, wasn't it? When were the dogs? It was a.
No, it was that week when she was
Yeah.
missing. That when the week she went missing, like a couple of days after, they put flyers out. They posted pictures of her on the internet, and then they searched where they could in the hotel. And they said they searched the roof with doddies.
Yeah, I don't know.
Also, a lot of people say that the door was open a lot because they were saying, well, how could she have got up on the roof? The roof door was locked. You needed a key. Only maintenance workers and the manager had keys. And then other people said, yeah, but the staff used to sneak out there and they used to prop the door open so that they could go out there and have cigarettes. There was loads of cigarette butts up there. There was loads of graffiti. There was like bottles of drink.
You can see people have been up there.
You could see people have been up there. However, they also said that the door to the roof had an alarm on it. So when it was open, an alarm would have constantly been going off in the lobby.
Oh, okay.
So they were like, no, the door, it
Would have been
didn't
closed.
it didn't used to get propped open because otherwise an alarm would constantly be going off.
But then because there's no denying that she went up to the roof, or even if it wasn't her, somebody went up to the roof.
Yeah.
When they opened that door, an alarm would have sounded.
Yeah. So the vibe I get from the staff at the Cecil was that she went up the fire escape. Because she would have had access to that. She could have opened the window, gone out on the fire escape, gone up, and then the last bit of it is like a ladder. So you could have gone up. I mean, it would have been scary, but then if she was hallucinating or not, if she was trying to get away from something and that's the way she headed, I mean, you would, wouldn't you? If someone,
Yeah.
if, you know, Richard Ramirez was chasing you, I'd go up a blimmin'
Fire escape.
fire escape.
Yeah.
Although, if I'm honest, I'd probably just stay on the ladder because I wouldn't want to go up onto the roof and then him come up on the roof as well. So I'd probably go up on the ladder and then just stay there. And then when he came up, I'd kick him in the head.
Oh, you've got a plan of action for everything, haven't you?
Yeah, I think about these things. I think like you wouldn't want to go up on the roof and then you'd just be constantly
you're stuck.
waiting for that like head to like pop up over the ladder and be like, "Here's Dick."
Yeah.
So that's what I would have done. So yeah, so the roof dogs plays on my mind. I'm like, why did they not pick up on any scent of her on the roof? Because she was on the roof.
Yeah.
Why
But
didn't
also,
why didn't they pick up her scent?
you mentioned as well about the rape report.
Yeah, I'll get to that.
Okay.
So her mobile phone has never been found. Who knows? Elisa's death was ruled an accidental drowning with her bipolar as the major contributing factor. This didn't sit well with some people as they argued there were discrepancies such as drugs could have been taken in the length of time in the water tank. It would cause those, like we said, the effects of those drugs to break down. Also, it didn't state what the result of the rape and fingernail kit were, even though they were processed. Some people argued, stating that the pooling of the blood in the anal cavity was evidence of sexual abuse. And the fact that her rectum was prolapsed was also a sign of brutal trauma. But rectal prolapse is also consistent with decomposition.
Yeah.
So we don't know about that. But Elisa's parents sued, and several guests sued the hotel, but it didn't come to anything. Her parents claimed that her daughter should never have been able to access the area of the roof, and that the hotel had inadequate security measures. But I mean, I have to side with the Cecil on this one, or certainly the staff of the Cecil. You can't plan for these things.
I was going to say you can't plan for every eventuality, can
No.
you?
On the
You've
other
got an
hand,
fire escape for safety, and that's primarily what it would have been used for.
yeah. Although, on the other hand, they've had like pretty much like 100 deaths at that hotel, so maybe you can plan for that kind of thing.
You
If
kind of plan.
suicide's a thing at that hotel, you maybe want to start going, well, do you know what? Let's start eliminating some of these things. The questions that remain: how did Elisa get onto the roof? The doorway from the stairs was alarmed. However, my personal thought is that she probably did use the fire escape.
The thing is, as well, isn't it, that we approach these situations with a logical brain and go, I wouldn't do this. This is what I would do. I wouldn't do this. But actually, she wasn't, from the state of the footage, she wasn't in a logical mind frame. Her behavior was incredibly strange. So you can't think how she would have been thinking to go, well, why would she go up the fire escape?
We don't know what her state of mind was. So how can we possibly try and put ourselves in that?
You can't make sense of it.
No.
Yeah.
Exactly. There's a lot of talk about the lid on the water tank. The maintenance guy that found Elisa's body, he said that the lid on the tank was shut. And this isn't a hatch, it's a lid. And it kind of, you put it like, well, you wouldn't be able to do it unless someone handed you the lid from the inside, and you'd have to be standing on something to actually put it up and over. It's like an actual lipped lid that goes on it, and you would still open it like a hatch, but it would come off. You would kind of lift it up and off kind of thing.
Yeah, there's no hinges.
Yeah, so he was saying, no, that it was shut. It was shut because I went over to the tank and I was up on the ladder and I took it off. speaking of ladder, they're really high.
Yeah.
These
You
are
said 1,000 gallon.
1,000 gallons.
Yeah.
And they're 8 foot high, and they're also on concrete blocks,
Yeah.
which takes it to over 10 foot. How the hell did she get up there?
Yeah, that's a lot of ladder to climb.
And also, on the other hand, how would someone else get her up there? And there was no sign of trauma to her body.
Yeah.
And
And also, she was tiny, wasn't she? She was very small.
she was small. Yeah, she was really small. So, you know, our kids are smaller than, you know, full-sized adults. I would struggle to, you know, have any of them, even if it's Lou, who's small. Even if I had him on my shoulder and I attempted to sort of climb up a ladder, and there's gonna be some kind of
bruising and
or hand marks or something. So it's, yeah, I don't know.
And I think as well, if she thought she was being chased, like the video suggests, because she is looking out for somebody, she's kind of hiding from somebody. You've got that adrenaline in your body as well, haven't you? You're trying to escape from somebody, so she would have been able to make it up that ladder.
Yeah, I mean, just it's baffling. Around 2005, I thought this was really interesting, actually. About 9-10 years before Elisa Lam was at the hotel, there was a horror film called Dark Water. And I know you're not a horror filmy person, so I won't say watch it and see what you think.
Yeah, thank you.
I swear to God, it is almost exact to, if you saw it after you knew the story about Elisa Lam, you'd say this film is based on what happened to Elisa Lam.
Oh, really?
Like every part of it. They're in this kind of residential block. There's a little girl moves in with her mum. The little girl is wearing pretty much exactly what Elisa Lam is wearing in the video. She's got a red jacket on. She's got like a you know, sort of whatever it was, shorts or skirt or something. And she's walking around this hotel. You see her in the elevator, standing in the elevator, moving around, being odd. And she ultimately ends up drowning in the water tank that is on top of the roof of this apartment block or residential hotel. And they're running the taps in the hotel, and the mother complains that obviously it's called Dark Water.
Yeah.
The water is running dirty.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's so similar.
So
but
strange.
this movie was made. So a lot of people think that it was potentially like some sort of copycat murder where.
Yeah, but how do they get her to act strangely in the elevator?
Well, maybe she wasn't. Maybe she was genuinely trying to get away from someone, and there was someone standing outside holding the button. People say that guns are 10 a penny. They're easy to come by. They could have held her at gunpoint and said, you're not going anywhere. Like, the lift's not moving, so you need to come with me. We're going to go up to the roof, and held her at gunpoint. You know, some people think there's that as well. One of the most popular theories is that she was murdered. And not just murdered, not just murdered by any old person, but there is a death metal music artist and photographer called Morbid, not the podcast, love Morbid. And they found on his sort of social media that he had that he had posted a video of himself at the Cecil Hotel. His real name is Pablo Vergara, and everyone like went mad. Apparently, he had posted a video of himself in the Cecil Hotel days after Elisa's body was found, and unfortunately for him, his new music video was called "Died in Pain."
Oh,
I know.
that's an awful coincidence.
And it shows him chasing and murdering a young woman. And like, I know, at the end, I think somewhere in the I don't know, lyrics or something. It says something about like someone dying in water or something.
Okay.
It's not great for him. So all of this that I've just said about obviously put him right in the frame for it all. He started getting proper like death threats and
Yeah.
abuse and everything. And he said it absolutely destroyed his life. He had nothing to do with it. The video of him at the Cecil Hotel was actually recorded the year before in 2012.
Oh God.
And he not only was he not there when Elisa Lam was there, but he was actually in Mexico recording his new album. He's got passport stamps to prove it. Everyone that he was working with was like, nope, he was there. We were all there. People continuously reported his YouTube and Facebook and all his email accounts, Facebook, YouTube, all of that all got deleted. He suffered.
But he was never a suspect, was he?
He was never a suspect. I mean, they know he was out of the country, but he suffered severe mental breakdowns because of this. And he even attempted to take his own life. And
because of keyboard warriors.
Exactly. And he then, because of this, he spent time in a psychiatric facility.
Oh, that's so horrible.
And that is the end. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I do know the story. You know that I know the story, and
I know you know that I know
you know that I
know
know that you know that I know. It's just so peculiar because how odd it is.
You don't know whether to be suspicious of certain parts of it or whether they are what they are. And
that's exactly it. It's like, to me, it seems that she's off her meds. She does have a history of hallucinations, and it does look like her behavior is strange, and she has ended up, in an unfortunate situation and has died. But then there's also the aspect of things like, how on earth did she get the lid back on? Those sort of things. But it's something that I just guess that we'll never find out, because there is no suspects and there's no evidence that there should be a suspect.
I mean, there's also the possibility, I'm not saying this is what happened, but it's possible. Sometimes I'll think, oh, I didn't lock my car. I've got no memory of it or something, and I'll come all the way downstairs and I go out there and I get my keys and I think, oh, it is locked.
Yeah.
I thought I'd left the door, because sometimes I'll leave the door open to bring my stuff in to the house.
Yeah.
And then I think, oh, my car door's wide open. I bet go out and shut that. So there's also the possibility of something like that. You don't know that maybe a maintenance worker. I mean, she was in the water tank for 19 days.
Yeah.
There's every possibility that maybe someone in that 19 days, maybe someone did go up there and go, oops.
That doing open.
Yeah. Or, oh, what's that doing open? Or maybe someone that went up there for a cigarette or something thought, oh, tank's open. Maybe someone was sitting up there smoking, looking over the view of the city or something, and thought, oh, nearly fell in then. Put the lid on. You don't know. Like, people don't always remember these things.
And also with the maintenance guy that found her, it could just be that he thinks he remembers opening the lid.
Yeah, he's done
actually, it wasn't.
He's done it 100 times.
Yeah, he expected it to be closed.
Exactly.
So that's, it's like a false memory, isn't it?
Yes, exactly.
So that's why these oddities occur, and that's what makes it so strange, because when people were trying to decode the video footage, I say it's like they're looking for something. But sometimes there's nothing to find. And the video is what the video is, and she's acting peculiar because she's mentally disturbed.
Yeah, I think because there's exactly that in the Netflix documentary. There's one bit where they're talking about, dissecting the video of her in the elevator, and they say, as she walks around the side, you can clearly see it looks like someone else's foot. But when I looked at it, I thought, no, it doesn't. That looks like the back of her foot.
Yeah.
As she's walking away.
Yeah, it is about perception, isn't it?
Yeah, I think sometimes, as you said very rightly earlier on, sometimes you can look too hard into things and you start creating things that actually don't
there to be
exist.
seen.
Yeah. But I think we both feel the same. I think the darkness of the Cecil Hotel is something different. I feel differently about that. I think, how can that many deaths go on in one building? Why hasn't it just been knocked to the ground?
Yeah.
There's bad juju there.
Yeah, so I don't know what to think. I watched the documentary, and I don't know what to think.
I know.
It's just one of those things. Do you remember that there's that podcast episode that we listened to of that boy that died reaching for his trainer? He'd put his trainer in a raveled up
Yeah. Kendrick Johnson.
Yeah,
Kendrick
but
Johnson.
he'd reached in to get his trainers, and everyone's like, well, why would you put your trainers in there? How do you get stuck? And they're, looking for so many reasons to figure out what's happened because it's so peculiar. But sometimes
It is what it is.
Just strange.
I mean, yeah, the amount of deaths at the Cecil has to be that in my head. That is something separate, because why so many deaths? Why so many serial killers and suicides and rapes and murders and things like that? Like, that's a lot.
I think bad negative energy breeds negative energy, but at the same time, because it's known for that, people will go there for that reason. And
I
very,
think
very peculiar.
With Elisa Lam, I think it was just I do think that she just wasn't taking her medication and she had a horrible accident. Yeah, I don't think it was anything more sort of supernatural, or I don't think she was murdered. I think she was having some problems with her bipolar, and she had something else going on in her head, and she was unfortunate.
Yeah, that's what I think. But
yeah, that's what
feel free to let us know what you think as well.
Yes.
If you have enjoyed listening to our episodes, make sure you rate us and leave us a review on whatever platform you are listening.
We absolutely love hearing from you guys. So you can also help support our show by donating to our Buy Me a Coffee link. We will make sure that you get a massive shout out and a big thank you in our next week's episode.
You can also follow us on social media at Perplexed Podcasts. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and if you want to see more videos and blooper reels, subscribe to our TikTok and YouTube channels.
You can also email us your stories at perplexedpodcasts@gmail.com.
And you can find all the relevant links in the episode descriptions. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye. I'd have to go to a medium and I'd be like, right, you don't tell me anything that she's saying. You tell her. I said no. She'd be like, I've got a message from Sarah. I'd be like, no. You take my message.
I'm not here to receive today.
I'm here to have my say. Tell her I told you so.